everybody. Welcome to the County Seat. I'm your host, Chad Booth. Today we're bringing you our show from Kane County with news of a new project that is shaping up to affect the visitor traffic into Zion's National Park. A private land partnership developer is trying to develop the outside of the east entrance of Zion Park to provide a different visitor experience for people who are traveling the area through Highway 89. We will delve into this unique project, the interface between the federal government, National Park Service, and the county, and how they all are playing a role in this development. First, let's find out a little bit about what East Zion Project looks like.
It used to be, all those darn tourists, and they were considered a nuisance in a lot of ways. That wasn't the old ethic of pioneer travel, and welcoming people to a place. The old ethic of the West travel was a guy that would show up on a homestead, and they didn't know each other, and often the people would take in the traveler, give them a meal. That meal was stuff that came right from their own work and their own land, and then send them on their journey. And in a way, we're kind of, in a modern way, kind of mimicking that.
Restoring the old ethics of Western travel and hospitality to the area is a vision that's grown out of the 2 decades that Kevin has worked with guests of the East Zion Ranch. Those guests sharing a perspective that could otherwise have been taken for granted.
We started to have the urges of preserving the East Zion area while yet still bringing in the balance of having facilities and people being able to enjoy the area. So you have to have lodging, you have to feed people, and have those necessary facilities as our enterprise, but not let it go out of control. Progress is necessary, ugliness is not.
Just over 1,800 people visited Zion when it opened in 1919. Last year, over 4.3 million people visited the park. The East Zion Initiative aims to alleviate some of that congestion that has plagued the area by creating a second visitor center, lodge, and a transportation infrastructure near the east entrance to Zion National Park. This blank canvas is prompting a conversation about creating a different type of experience, focused on complementing the landscape while enhancing the experience of the individual, rather than the price per square foot to build it. The typical visitor center hands out information and sends people on their way. The new visitor center, envisioned for East Zion, will have opportunities for people to experience the unique agricultural heritage tied to the area. Whether that's eating an apple off the tree in the parking lot, or having a meal prepared with food grown on site, the East Zion Initiative seeks to create a lasting impression on visitors.
North Fork Road comes down and intersects into Highway 9, and what we've done is with the land planners and architects is looked at that spot as the visitor center campus on the north side of the highway. This is one case. If you look at the design that's currently on the table there, it's one of the cases where a picture's not worth 1,000 words. The integration of flow and visitor experience there on that site is going to be much more than meets the eye on paper, because it's being designed from a standpoint of customer experience. We're trying to make it much more biotic. We have a heavy agricultural overlay to it, which will create a lot of culinary experiences for people. The design and the architecture and the programming of the farms, the overlay of activity, the experiential touching and digging, and tasting, that nourishing side, that really starts to push all the buttons of what really makes people leave with something besides a credit card bill when they go on vacation.
There's an exciting opportunity for us to create this gateway into the third most visited national park in our nation. And we have a real positive group of landowners that are involved, that are anxious to participate in that in a very sustainable way that we feel like will be beneficial to us in the long term.
The size and scope of the project really exceeds the capability of any one governmental organization corporate entity, or individual. Partners of the project include Kane County, the National Park Service, private landowners like Kevin McClaw, Zion National Park Forever Project, the BLM, the state and county offices of tourism, the Governor's Office of Economic Development, UDOT, and many others.
We could do something special that they couldn't do, that this has a real opportunity that wouldn't fit within the framework of a government process. So there has to be that proprietary private edge to it, the freedom that gives to dream up the best design, the most coordinated outcome, because we have the liberty to do that.
Well, now we see what the project looks like. When we come back on the county seat, we'll delve into how the relationships all work to make it a reality. We'll be right back.
Utah has a national treasure where winding canyons stretch to the horizon, where nature forms elegant structures, and where iconic monuments of the West stand tall. Visitors around the world come to get a glimpse of southern Utah's legendary landscape and landmarks. Join them and explore San Juan County, Utah's canyon country.
In a place that is beyond words, there is nothing to be said, except take your time in Bryce Canyon country.
Welcome back to the county seat. We are having a conversation today about a new project at the entrance to Zion Park on the east side of Zion National Park. Joining us for a conversation about how all the pieces come together, Kane County Commissioner Brent Chamberlain and Jeff Bradybaugh, who is the Superintendent of Zion National Park. Thank you for joining us today.
Great to be here.
How did the process of the project get to the attention of Zion National Park? Was it presented in a proposal? Was this something you had said, boy, wouldn't it be nice, and could somebody do something about it? How did the whole process begin?
Well, from our perspective, we've looked at the possibility of having a visitor center or some sort of visitor contact station on the east side of Zion since at least 2001. The local landowner, Kevin McClaw, has been in contact with us probably a year and a half ago to start thinking about what he might do on his land, which is, joins the park along Highway 9 on the east side. And we soon hit on an opportunity, really, to jointly think about the planning to an entrance to a national park, which, among all of our partners, is a rather unique experience. Zion National Park is celebrating its 100th anniversary this year, and to have an opportunity to actually plan that entrance area, both within and outside the park, is quite a unique experience. So that's how it started.
At least you have an idea of you know what the needs are a little bit better than when somebody first establishes a park, I would presume.
Yeah.
What are the challenges that within the park, and what are the challenges from Kane County? Obviously, when people get to the Thunderbird Hotel and they're at the Mount Carmel Junction ready to make a turn, and it has to be a pretty conscious decision to go to Zion's Park because Zion Park, it does not look like Zion National Park.
Yeah, it's different, and of course the travel in and out of the park does affect the Kane County substantially. It's a fair amount of travel. But they just pass right through. You know, they zip right through and end up in the park. And the challenge that that they have is they enter through the station like you normally would into a national park, but they're not going to see a visitor center for miles and miles. And there's miles of beautiful country on the east side even before you get into the park, but there's no visitor center on that side or no contact other than just the pay station there.
Superintendent, do you think that people who are currently traveling under the current system actually miss some opportunities, interpretive opportunities, and some visitor experience opportunities by going first from the east side directly over to the visitor center on the west side?
Well, a lot of times people may not realize what there is on the east side of Zion Park, and as Commissioner was saying, they may travel through, and certainly it's a wonderful landscape, but there are a lot of opportunities there. There's hiking. Our principal bighorn sheep herd exists on that side of the park. There are these, it has unique geology on that side of the park, so there are interpretive experiences that people may think, well, geez, I need to get to the visitor center in Zion Canyon, and they may kind of rush their way through rather than taking their time. So there's some opportunities there that people are missing.
One of the things that we're currently working on, and actually have some of the funding in place, and are working on the permitting, the NEPA process. We plan on establishing, beginning on this private property. This is Kane County, beginning on Kevin McClaw's private property, and then crossing across the BLM, which they're a cooperating entity as well, or agency, and in some cases into Zion National Park. We're going to build about 14 miles of trails. There's currently about 14 miles of trails in the main canyon of Zion National Park. So, and these will be equal to, I think, in many cases, anything that you're going to see in the park. So the opportunity for people to spend some time on that side of the park and hike and experience Zion, a different geology, as Jeff mentioned, but it's great. The opportunity's there.
When people look at the park from the west side, they see the elevation rise. When they pass by at Mount Carmel Junction, they don't see that rise, but if you go even sidebar up to Zion Ponderosa, you look down into the canyon. There's some impressive geological features on that side, colored a little differently, but
it is, and the geology is a bit different. There's cross bedding, and that geology fosters a different plant community, therefore a different wildlife community. So there are these differences that you see with elevation as well as with the geology. So both of those things play into what a visitor can experience.
This is only an observation. Is this just slightly more of a family-friendly side to visit as far as ease of the trails, the access to the terrain? If somebody is traveling with children, will they potentially have a better experience with children in mind than on the west side of the canyon?
Well, I think some of the activities that are being planned on the Zion Mountain Ranch, which is the adjacent private land, some of those things are going to be very much tailored toward families. So there will be some experiences there in particular. I think that will be very conducive to family, a family outing. Certainly it's right now and likely in the future, that side of the park is a little bit less crowded, so I think there will be opportunities that'll be different for families than perhaps in the main canyon.
You can park your car along in the corridor on the east side of Zion, get out and walk on the rock and some of the really incredible scenery there, walk in that, and it's not crowded like the trail system within the main canyon there. There's just far fewer travelers there. About 25% of the visitors that enter the park enter through the east side, so that gives you an indication of how the difference of the park is. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of terrain between the entrance of the east side entrance into the main canyon. Yeah.
So we've wandered about halfway through our program already, and we've talked about all the wonderful things, how nice the facility's going to look, what kind of opportunities, but I know there have got to be some challenges. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll look at the obstacles in front of Kane County and the park at getting this whole thing done. We'll be right back on the County Seat.
Yeah, we're folks bound by traditions. Whether it's holiday time or vacation time, make sure that one of your traditions is a stop at the Creamery in Beaver, Utah. Delicious cheese direct from the factory, ice cream, tasty treats, crafts, and gifts of all kinds. And it's the perfect place to get a bowl of creamy mac and cheese. Start your new tradition the next time you're headed our way. The Creamery in Beaver, Utah. Farm, meet table.
Mountains to explore. Adventure to be had. A town to fall in love with. Yes, all that in Park City, Utah. Start your adventure at visitparkcity.com.
Welcome back to the county seat. We are in Kane County today talking about a new visitor center and an entrance upgrade to East Zion, or the entrance to Zion National Park. So we've got a good idea of what the project's going to look like. We've seen some nice drawings. We understand what kind of opportunities. But this is a very complicated project between private land, county, and some of their responsibilities, and the national park. What kind of challenges have you run into in doing something like this?
Well, I think there are certainly challenges, but I think that having a number of partners working together, it actually helps us bridge some of the challenges. For a federal agency or a state agency to do or a county to do these things individually actually might be a harder lift than to do it in partnership. We have nonprofit organization that's involved. We have our county government. We have a private landowner, and of course we have our federal government. What it takes is I think, a lot of willingness to find how we take advantage of each other's skills and expertise. And you know, the private landowner, Kevin McClaws with Zion Mountain Ranch, is key to this, because we have to have that land base to make it work. But you know, there has to be willingness on his part to say, well, I'm going to host some facilities that maybe are not owned by the ranch.
Well, and anytime you talk about a large development project, there's a lot of money involved. You guys are going to have to do some transportation upgrades, I'm sure, along the road and the corridor. So you've got to work on transportation planning. There's a lot of building going on. What kind of impacts does this have on the taxpayers?
Well, first of all, let me just explain that there's two components that the county is primarily responsible for. And the first one is the visitor center. The county, while Kevin McClaws is making the land available, the county is responsible for finding somehow to build a visitor center. And this total project could run as high as maybe $10 million, getting the visitor center and the parking and everything that's associated with that, all the infrastructure. The money for that will not come from Kane County taxpayers. Basically, the money, we're looking at using incremental tax financing as one option, and certainly we're looking at state and federal entities that hopefully will step up and help us out a little bit with this as well. But that what that allows is for the money to be, for funding to be obtained through debt service and paid for by increases in tax revenue to the county, that we use that increase in tax revenue to pay. And this is a situation that applies only if it's but for this project, that tax money wouldn't be there. But for the project, if everything comes together, then the money will be there to pay the debt service. The other component is the transportation system. In order for this to really work, we need a shuttle service going into the east side of Zion National Park. And that perhaps is a bigger challenge finding the funding for, but we're working on that, finding funding that to allow for a shuttle service at least that will go into the park. I mean, ultimately, my vision is that this shuttle service will access both, or all three, Zion, Bryce Canyon National Park, and Grand Canyon National Park.
Would this be a county-run transportation system, or would it be contracted out, or, I mean, do we know that?
Well, we don't know yet. I think the county's on the hook to find the money for it, but as far as who's going to own it, I don't think the county wants to be in the shuttle service or busing service business. That would be a rather challenge. So I anticipate that we'll contract out or something, but it's not a money maker. I mean, these things don't make money, and this one certainly won't generate the revenue to pay for its operating expenses, let alone the capital. So that money has to come from somewhere. We're working on that.
So Brenda Critic would say, well, if it's not going to make money, what benefit is it to the county? And I know you have an answer for that.
Well, of course. What it does is it makes the experience so much better. Everything about this, and Kevin McClaw's piece on this one is going to talk about this being a better experience for the visitors. And what this does is that there's congestion with traffic getting through the tunnels and the switchbacks in Zion National Park. If you've ever visited, you understand that. The big vehicles, the big buses that go through there create challenges because they're oversized for the way the road was designed. So if we can put smaller vehicles in place of those and get rid of a good portion of the private vehicles that are going in by putting them in a shuttle service, that makes the experience much better for everyone that's there. So this is all about the visitor experience. We want this to be something where when the visitor comes to the east side, they have a wonderful experience, both outside of the park and inside of the park, and that's what it's about.
Does that translate into tourism dollars then for the communities on the east side?
It does, because people come, if they have a great experience, they come back again, they stay an extra day or two in the area. The experience does, in fact, benefit the community having a better experience.
So, Jeff, this would be a question directed at you. Obviously, there's going to be, new business created on visitors who would otherwise be coming to the park. What has your growth in visitation been like at Zion National Park over the last decade?
Yeah, over the last decade, it's been very significant, about 68% growth in visitation. So that's our high was 2017. That was 4.5 million. We started about 2.7 at the beginning of the decade.
So do you see an East Zion project like this redistributing visitorship or just alleviating pressure off of already existing visitorship?
I think both. We are working on various aspects of visitor use management. How do we provide those experiences for people that they're seeking? And people have a wide range of experiences that they're looking for in their national park, be it a wilderness experience or what we call a front country touring experience, those sorts of things. So having some additional facilities that help diversify the experience as well as spread out some of those opportunities and have the visitation less concentrated perhaps is a big help to us.
Are other parks looking at what you're doing and going, gee, I wish we had a chance for a facelift and a development of a new way into our parks? Have you been contacted by other parks?
To some degree, this project is pretty new, and we've been introducing it to our superiors, and Brent was in Washington here a couple weeks ago to talk with them about it. This is, again, kind of a unique experience, but every national park realizes that there's a community obviously associated with it, and there are opportunities to collaborate on various things, be it transit or these recreational opportunities, but this kind of encapsulates all of those things.
It is interesting. When I was in D.C. a couple of weeks ago visiting with the senior people within the National Park Service, the director and such, acting director, there was a fair amount of excitement there on the part that this was the degree of collaboration between all of the entities, between the county, the BLM, the National Park Service, a nonprofit, and a private landholder, an entity, and that is a bit unique, I think. You won't necessarily find that in other areas where you have even the opportunity or the ability to do that, and you don't have that many entrances that haven't been already designed to death. You know, this is almost virgin territory here that we have the opportunity of doing in the way that would make it the most the best possible experience for the visitors that come there.
Excellent. We're going to take one more break. Our time is running way long. We'll be back with final question. We'll be right back to the county seat.
In our world, the sun shines on high adventure, and new experiences are yours for the taking. And everything in you looking to play outside the box. Cedar City, it's time to play.
The Utah Farm Bureau began as a collection of farmers supporting each other to raise the food we enjoy. Today, Farm Bureau membership encompasses everyone, whether ranchers, growers, or just everyday folks like you and me. Members enjoy discounts on items like vehicles and ATVs, or insurance that's very affordable. You don't have to be a farmer to join, and dues are small, but together we make a big difference in keeping our food supply local and abundant. Join Utah Farm Bureau.
149 million years in the making, dinosaurs once roamed this land. Now they're found at the Dinosaur National Monument. Let's take you beyond the bones. We call it Dinosaur Land. You'll find it offers adventures and sights not seen anywhere else in the world. Come to Dinosaur Land, Vernal, Utah. You'll want to stay forever. The dinosaurs did.
There are meetings, and then there are gatherings. At the Davis Conference Center, we know the difference. Turn your event into something more than just another business summit. With over 70,000 square feet of flexible meeting space, state-of-the-art presentation amenities, and inspiring architecture, the Davis Conference Center is designed to deliver stellar results in a majestic setting. Take your convention to the next level. Schedule now at davisconferencecenter.com.
Welcome back to the county seat, talking about the new development that is planned on the east side of Zion Park. Commissioner, final thought.
I would just like to establish that the reason for doing this, the benefit for Kane County and Kane County residents is that we rely heavily upon the dollars, the tax dollars that are created by the tourists. This provides an opportunity to maintain that while yet providing a better experience for those that do come and visit the area. So it's a win-win, I think, for those that come and visit, and it maintains, if not even expands a little bit, the opportunity for revenue into the county.
Okay. For you, Superintendent, could you have done this in the current climate of budgeting for national parks if there hadn't been a collaborative partnership?
No way. The collaboration and the partnership is what's making this possible.
Excellent. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Thank you for letting us into your homes. Remember, local government and communities is where your life happens, so be involved, be part of it. We'll see you next week on the county seat.